Hello and welcome to ScreenHour with me, Mikey.
With me, Kieran.
And this week we've got quite a chunky topic, and a topic we've been looking forward to discussing. It's quite an old game, but it's
It's taken us a while to full on complete it to get through it.
Yeah, and that's one of the main topics points we'll be discussing. Well, it's Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the chunky RPG, which it is, the good, the bad. I would say the ugly, but it's got good graphics and it looks quite beautiful.
It does look good.
But yeah, an in-depth discussion of the story and the whole thing in the review. And as usual, we'll probably flag spoilers when they come up.
Yeah.
And we go in depth as that as we can. But first impressions and first roundup point is that it's a more so of a Viking game than it's the most Viking game you play. It's the least assassin game they've ever done.
I think that's a very fair point, because I really enjoy it for the game that it is, but to claim it as an Assassin's Creed game, it's neither here nor there.
I think it's very loose. I've put literally thinking about it's a Viking game with stealth elements.
Yeah.
It's not an Assassin's game with Viking elements. I reckon even I can't remember who it was. I think it was it was Watch Mojo. They were saying, and they brought it up, he even wears the hidden blade on the front of her forearm, so it's not even fucking hidden.
Yeah, it's not even the hidden blade.
It's not even the hidden blade. It looks like a sweet piece of jewellery, like a posh watch, like a posh bracelet.
Bracelet sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like it's a real big negative. And for the lore, if you're proper into Assassin's Creed lore, it's not got a lot of philosophy of the Brotherhood. So a lot of these ones
Well, essentially the Brotherhood doesn't get created until Ezio's time with Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. That's when the Brotherhood really comes about. But the whole order, or the Order of the Ancients or something, and
that's what I mean.
The hidden ones.
The hidden ones. But these newer RPG ones, even Odyssey had more of it, because not Odyssey, sorry, Origins, because it was Origins. They tried to incorporate the hidden ones from there, and they said why the hidden ones was created and whatever, but it's not really touched on. So the way the assassins are introduced in this is just there's two guys in your settlement. You're playing as Eivor. Eivor's the central protagonist you're playing as, but your adoptive brother Sigurd on his travels.
Sigurd, yeah.
Sigurd meets this mad Middle Eastern guy and his apprentice who's in the Hidden Ones Bureau, and that's
Basim and Hytham.
Yeah, and they live in your establishment, your little settlement with you. But Basim has more of a thing to play.
He has a massive role to play.
He has a massive role to play in the game. Story, especially more so towards the end.
But I mean, that's the thing with the hidden ones, or the assassins. It was it was a creed. It was a rite of loyalty of such, and the whole assassin's ordeal was the blade was in such a place that you actually lost the top two sections of your finger.
Yeah. And it was like a sacrifice type of thing, yeah.
It was a sacrifice to the creed.
But in this
creed, he just puts it, as we've said, on the outside, and it's nah, this is better.
It reminds me, and this sounds quite a weird way to look at it, that Sigurd went on a stag do, or went away with his mates, at on a university gap year, and he's look, I met these boys, Hytham and Basim. And he says, I've got this cool thing, do you want it? And he that's how you would learn to use the assassin blade. He's I've got you a gift, Eivor.
Yeah.
He's got this for you. He's yeah. And also this is incredibly mild spoilers, because as I say, this is when you get the hidden blade in the first 40 20 minutes of the game.
Prologue as such.
The prologue as such. And it makes Sigurd doesn't have a hidden blade, even though he's the mutual friend who introduces you to the assassins. I thought it would have made more sense if Sigurd was an assassin.
Yeah. If Sigurd had the assassin blade to begin with and was I don't like it, you have it, Eivor, or maybe both of them had it, then that would have made so much more sense. But the fact that it was just we've got this hidden blade that's part of their you know, the whole. It's like part of the whole organisation as the Ancient Ones is they use these hidden blades, but guess what? Sigurd doesn't want it. You have it, Abel.
It's almost as if like he palmed it off on you, like it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right, it's like, but it's a double-edged sword in a sense that, however, the Viking elements are fun. So the raid is really fun. It doesn't have like in the other Assassin's Creed games. So in Odyssey you have like the conquest battles. That's quite cool. In Origins doesn't really have like a quite an epic battle thing, but Valhalla really does. Like there's a lot of parts in the story where you're storming castles and forts, and like you're escorting a battering ram or you're using the battering ram. And I tell you, like that does feel badass.
It feels like a great
feels epic. Feels like
game.
Cinematic, yeah.
Yeah, it was like of anything to take away from the fact that it's more a Viking game than an Assassin game is these raids. You know, that was a great new element that they brought to the game. 100%.
I like the comrades style. I like, despite you, like I said, like there's not a big feel of the Assassin's Creed element of an Assassin's Creed game. What is cool and like one of the main focuses of the game they try to push is you having the settlement and you having Raventhorpe, sorry.
Raventhorpe, yeah.
That's it. And you have this element of you building, making the settlement bigger and bigger, and you have like levels, and the way you do that is raiding places.
To get resources.
And then you get these resources, you build a cool thing. So whether that be like a cattle farm, or whether that be the grain shed, or whether it be the bakery, or whatever.
A
hunter's lodge. And you expand it. So what's cool is you have the feast, and you activate the feast, and it costs like 60 silver every time. But like as you expand it more, you have different buffs. So you do more range damage, you do more stealth damage if you have like, you know, the shepherd's hut, or you got to do more like stealth damage if you have such and such. Yeah. So that's cool, and I like the camaraderie. You have like little like characters within the settlement who come join you as it goes on. It's like a very like, I won't tell you about the quest. It's quite a little quest, quite a cool little quest. But there's a character like a baker comes to live in the settlement when you make the baker's hut.
Yeah.
And he has his own little storyline, and that's cool. So I enjoyed that, and I also liked the rap battles. So the rap battles were quite fun.
The fighting.
The flighting, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's actually called, I apologise. So the flighting's cool. I used to get Charlotte to help me do that. This was a bit of a laugh, like, because that's fun, like.
You could get it straight off. I
could do it first time, but I just thought, like, yeah, often, like, yeah, because my PlayStation living room, I get Charlotte to do it.
She was like in the room and stuff, like join in, sort of thing.
It's not like I failed. It's like Charlotte, I really need
you
help on this.
You're a dumbass. I don't know how to rhyme.
But I just thought it was cool.
It is a nice.
They hadn't done that, and also like in a lot of like RPGs, you have charisma in it, and like your charisma can not just get you out of awkward situations, but also you can bypass bits and get like more money from people or do stuff like
barter
that.
It, yeah.
Yeah, bartering. So that's cool. You get stuff easier. I like the Viking mythology.
Yeah, I love the Viking North mythology.
The Norse mythology.
I mean, we mentioned it when we did the Northmen. You know, with the whole Odin and everything. You know, it's a very cool sort of. It's interesting how we call that mythology. Yet religion today is religion. Yet back then that was religion. So we're going to give it another couple of 100 years and we start calling Christianity mythology, you know. It'd be interesting to see how that all goes down. But you know, Odin and Freya and Tyr and
Baldur
Loki.
Yeah. It just, and Loki, and this hooks his on the game. I cannot express this enough. This isn't a spoiler, but. And this is a big positive, but if you like start playing it and you don't find it fun, I honestly just be like, oh, trade it in. If you don't find the combat fun, you piss in the wind.
Yeah,
because I think the combat is fun, but it's the crux of the game. Like if you don't find the combat fun, or like the lack of stealth, it's not for you.
I mean, you start the game in Norway, right, and then you do some sort of like. Feasts thing or something or other, and then you sail to England, right? Once you get into England, at least do some raiding and some stuff just to get more of an idea. But if you don't, sort of like it from that point onwards, then you're not going to enjoy the rest of it because it's, I mean, it is a grind of a game. It's very repetitive.
So I got Season Pass, and that doesn't include Dawn of Ragnarok, by the way, which we haven't played, but I completed Siege of Paris, and after I completed Siege of Paris, and I have not 100% of the game, and like we discussed like why as like a point to say why, and like it give you tell me how many hours, and it's like 77 hours.
Yeah, I've put in 86 hours.
Yeah,
I think so. The better one, that's 86 hours, right? That's taken me to complete the main story and killing all of the
Order of the Ancients.
Right? They're not one and the same. You can complete them separately.
Yeah, killing all the Order of the Ancients, like more spoilers, but is not.
Yeah, it's not fully linked to the story at all.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other games, it would have been. You know, so it's a bit weird in that sense, but it's just, you know, that's 86 hours. That's not doing like the side missions or
that's not doing the mysteries. That's not collecting all the artifacts. That's not like doing all the wealth.
No, that's just purely doing the main story mode.
So
that's why it's taken us this long to do this episode.
Because we haven't just been doing Valhalla. Obviously, we've been playing different games, watching TV, just life in general. Combat is a lot, and that is the most of the game. Obviously, it's like, despite us saying, it's not really an Assassin's Creed game, there's a lot of parkour. Parkour's the game. Like that's how you get around. But you can use your horse or your bear if you download Siege of Paris DLC, or your whatever, or your unicorn or whatever. But the combat is fun. Like, what I really liked, and I think they had it on the other games, but it feels like more of a thing here because it's more brutal and a Viking-esque, is the stun finisher system. So the stun finisher system is, if you're using range by bows, if you hit them in the highlighted area, you can do like one-shot damage.
It's
That's
it's
cool.
sort of like an armor bar.
Yeah.
As such, if you like, it's not technically armor because there's like a health bar, but then there's like the stun bar that's above it. If you take that down, you then get to do sort of like a finisher, let's call it, or a stun finisher, and then that just depletes a lot of their health in a particular move as such.
So if you parry them, you do like take a lot of the armor bar down.
Yeah.
But some of the finishers are gnarly. You feel like an absolute badass.
Yeah, like,
so that's
especially
really cool.
if you got dismemberment turned on, like
blood
and
you
gore.
Just chop off like people's heads with like an axe, or you chop off their arms or whatever. That's
I mean, if it was like a
cool,
Ubisoft game and it was a Red Dead game,
a Rockstar game,
game, should I say, it would be far bloodier and probably more of what I'd want from the Vikings.
Yeah. What I liked about it as well in the combat is there's a lot of different abilities. So you have your range abilities for your L2 and your R2. You have your close combat abilities. And you end up having ones like you'll love for the rest of the game, and you just upgrade the books of knowledge.
Yeah.
So the books of knowledge are a bit of a grind. So they're not like grind as in like it'll take you a while, but like if you find like one you like, and you're like, oh god, I like this, I need to go get the other one. You might have to go get the other one, which might have been like a higher level area.
Yeah.
But you can just Google it, upgrade it, and go over it, and come back. You end up having like ones you really like. Yeah. So I had the one which was I don't know what it's called. I mean, it even might be called Bash, Run and Bash. Or just like a spear, and then you upgrade it, and like when you spear them into a wall, you then throw your axe at them, and the amount of times. So there's like a boss battle with like one of the main arcs, like throughout the near start of the game with one of the brothers, and it's on a cliff face.
Oh, so Ivar.
Yeah.
Ivar the bonus.
Yeah, so so you attack him, and I just speared him off, and you fall, or fell and just took a loads of health off by doing that. So that's fun. You have one where it's like a crowd clearance, that's throwing loads of axes.
Throwing loads of axes, yeah, I'll do that.
You can slow down time with range, I think that's like Eye of Normir or Focus of Normir.
Yeah, something.
So they are really cool.
Nornia.
So yeah, the combat is fun. There's
quite a lot of range. What you just said with the books of knowledge, I mean, just the inventory style itself with your outfits and stuff, nothing is worthless.
Yeah.
Like, if you pick up an item, if you pick up loot, let's call it, I mean, that's what it is, but when you pick that up, it's not like, oh, I'm a level 12, once I'm a level 15, this is going to be pointless. Like, you can level it up with you, and it just stays with you, and there's new appearances and stuff when you're leveling them up, and everything has a place. And like with the books of knowledge of finding the abilities, it's not like you just go down an ability tree, right? You have to raid somewhere to find that ability, right? And you unless you're using like a guide online, you don't know what abilities or what armor and stuff you're going to find in there. So it's quite a nice way of being able to find loot and get stuff. It's not just like, oh, I've got 12 skill points, I'm going to put all these skill points, into amazing abilities. There is a skill tree, but I'm on about like the abilities as such. And this is a way of just changing that sort of meta as such. And you can now find these books of knowledge out and about, and then you have to somehow try and find the second version of it to make it better. And I did like that new change. It did make it far more interesting, and it wasn't so like, oh, I've got a loadout I really like at the beginning of the game, and that's it, I don't change it. Right? I mean, I did, in a sense, have some of that, because of some abilities I found that I thought were really great and really fitted my playstyle.
Yeah, there is some abilities.
But there are abilities that you come across later on in the game that you can just add in, and it just flows with your playstyle as such. It's not like, oh, this is one I got at the beginning of the game, but if I go down the skill tree and get this one, this is like 1,000,000 times better than using that one. Like, everything that you get at the beginning of the game is still completely viable, like 86 hours into the game.
Yeah, so the abilities, like, as you say, they like upgrade with you.
Yeah.
And there's some abilities which you'd be silly not to have at least one of them. So by that I mean, if you don't have poison strike, you don't have fire strike when you get them, and a bit of a grind to get to a degree. It's silly not to have them because they're so good. And the point, like, I think is cool that you've like quickly touched on, is the gear system simplified.
Yeah.
So with Odyssey, it's not complicated, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of gear.
Yeah.
And I know how, like, depending on how sweaty you want to get, it could be a negative for you. Because I know, like, some people get to get nerdy with it, and they're like, oh, if I have this, it builds this up or whatever. But because it's an RPG game, you still have bonuses for like having certain armors. So certain armors like give you certain benefits for like such. So there's an armor which gives you loads of critical hit damage if you parry. There's an armor which gives you loads of stealth damage. There's an armor which is good for range, called the Huntsman one, I'm pretty sure.
There's a shield as well that if you parry correctly, you deal poison and stuff,
and
or
poison.
health, or smoke bomb. Or
the gear's still good. Like, it's good because, as you say, it goes with you.
Yeah.
And I cannot be like emphasising enough. And like, it's an RPG and it's an open world game, so everybody does it. But it seems to reward you a lot, exploring.
Yeah.
And like, you're highlighting Odin's sight, which is your eagle vision or whatever. You do that, you see something gold, just go for it.
Yeah.
Because even if it's crap,
it'll
be good later on.
Yeah, it might change your play
just give it a go, like, yeah.
And that's the other thing, actually, is, I mean, it was something they kind of pushed when they were selling it, but your loadout, like the particular weapons you use, you can mix and match whatever you want. You can double shield it, you can 2-axe, you can shield an axe, you can even then unlock ability later on, which is called heavy dual wield or something.
Yeah.
And you can have like 2 spears in both hands. You can have two-handed weapons in both hands. Like,
yeah, so you can have like 2 great swords. And as Kim says, like,
it really caters to any play style.
It really caters to any play style. So you can just absolutely go mental. You can have 2 shields, as you say. You can run around with beating people up with 2 shields. Have 2 great swords. You can have 2 axes. So that's cool. Yeah. But however, these rewards are gathered by like mostly just raiding tombs or craves.
Yeah.
They're not. So like a lot of, so we're playing like Forbidden West, like, and I know, like, because I've just done a mission last night about it, and there's a lot of missions, I presume, like Dying Light is this, and like a lot of old school RPGs anyway, where it's a must really. Like the community was saying, you got to do this side mission, so you get this sweet weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of that. And that's what I feel like is missing. So one of my like big negatives is how they've changed the side missions, and they aren't side missions anymore. They're what you call mysteries. And my biggest problem with like the game being chunky is, and we discussed this a bit more on non-spoilers in a bit, but the game's like probably 70 hours if you just mainline
But
story.
if you fall on
Just
like,
mainline story, and that's like a lot. Like that's a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And you have your story arcs. So you're in your settlement, and the main like point is you want to go around and make allies with everybody in the UK, and then you help them out by doing whatever story arc that is. And a lot of the time, that's raiding, or that's helping the leader find out who's the betrayer in the mist, or you try and help them strike up, allies within the diplomacy or whatever.
Yeah.
So the story arcs do differ quite a bit, but not enough. So I couldn't tell you now. I could tell you Hunworld, and I could describe like a few different characters without spoiling it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you more than 5. I'd just describe a few.
I could tell you Ragnarsson's sons because they are Ragnarsson's sons. Uber, Ivar. Halfdan. I can't think of the other ones now.
Yeah.
What are the other ones called?
Like I know Soma's in it. I know like
Soma, yeah. But they're not. They're not Ragnar. But yeah, you've got Soma. You've got Hunworld.
Hunworld, like who's like a nice catcher.
Yeah.
Keelbolt. Keelbolt probably has one of the best like storylines.
Remind me of that one.
The one we got Ivar. And we won't spoil
that.
But like, yeah.
We'll get into that bit in a bit.
We'll get into that bit in a bit. But so that main point is like I wouldn't quite describe it as pace, or describe it as like story structure. But there's a lot of elements where, as opposed to making the main story 75 hours long, or whatever how long it is, 6 odd hours, they should have made that shorter and made the mysteries, which are the like side missions, which take literally the longest one takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At the very most.
At the very most.
And we've Odyssey and other like RPGs, they will take you.
Some side missions could be as long as
some side missions could be as long as the main mission, as you say. It'll take you like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. You're going for a cave, you're meeting different characters, you're doing whatever. Yeah. And it's a good laugh, like, and you usually get good loot like that. And it feels more rewarding when you're getting good loot like that. As opposed to, there's like a little annoying thing is when you find this door's barred and you got to go around and like jump around. It's like, that's really gets on my tits when it's like, this door's barred, so you've got to go down through a lake, come around the other side, jump around a building and like just to shoot this bloody door which is barred. So what they should have done, in my opinion, is had the main story 20 hours long or whatever, and done like 15 hours of side mission dotted about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing with the main story is you've got to pledge to overtake all these areas to help you when you come to overthrow Alfred. Right? So you've basically got to pledge to every single area before you even consider taking over Alfred. What they should have done is you should have done a majority of the areas, so you should have taken like 60% of the map before you can take on Alfred at Hamptonshire. I think that's would have narrowed the game down a bit more, because you would have been able to have completed the game sooner, right, if that's what you wanted to do. But you still had the option to overthrow all the other areas as well. Yeah. So at least, like, if you are a casual gamer that cannot put in 86 hours on a single game, right, just to complete it, you've still got the option to actually complete it.
So, Eivor is charming, witty, and badass. Like, as a main protagonist, is written. He seems, and she seems, I imagine, because I played as the male one. It's fun to play as him. He seems vulnerable when he needs to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
He seems badass when he needs to be. But like this growth, like, it doesn't seem OP. He doesn't come across terribly arrogant. Like,
no.
But there is a bit I'll get to in spoilers, which is rather annoying. The other things I would suggest is you can really take or leave settlement building. So, like I've said, like, you get your bonuses when you do your feast, and that feast. Typically, I used to have a feast before every story arc, because you have to go back to your settlement to start a story arc and finish it, and you get your bonus, your passive bonuses. But I think you could do the entire game without doing that. Apart from doing the bits.
I did one feast just to see what it was all about, and then I never did one again.
Yeah, exactly. So I've done a feast every time.
Yeah.
And you complete the game.
I mean, and then going back to the Eivor as a character, I originally actually started out playing as the female character, but fortunately you can change the character on the fly, whatever you want. Yeah. And I actually changed it to the male character because I actually didn't quite like the female voice actor. I didn't like the.
So it's like the opposite of Odyssey.
Odyssey, yeah, I much more preferred Cassandra over Alexius, but then in this one I much preferred male Eivor over female Eivor, like the just the voice acting. And plus, what was a big thing for me is the voice actor is Magnus Bruun, and Magnus Bruun, I came across him in The Last Kingdom, and he plays Knut in The Last Kingdom, and his character is just brilliant in The Last Kingdom. And I started following him on socials, and he's like a real sound bloke, to be fair. He's a funny guy, and I've conversed with him a couple of times in comments and stuff. And then when I realised he's playing Eivor, I was like, oh, it'd be a shame not to play as him, like, I'd just be rude not to, sort of thing. And I'm glad I stuck with him, to be fair. Yeah, it's just, I just much preferred
the male
version. Plus, when I'm playing it, I'm like hearing the guy's voice, and I'm like, oh, it's Knut from Last Kingdom.
Yeah. So, despite us saying how like chunky it is, especially now, because like we've said, we're a bit late to party to agree, it is quite a bit cheaper. Like I think you can buy I like to describe it as the Big Dick Player version with all the DLC. I think you can buy that for like less than £60.
And to be honest, you could have brought it at full price, and you're 100% getting your money's worth.
Yeah.
Like we said, the amount of time we've spent in the game, and we've not even fully completed like everything that's available. You are like, I've never played a game where I thought if I paid full price on release, right, I'm getting my money's worth. Like, this is a game you full on get your money's worth.
You can really sink your teeth into it. Like you pick up this game if you want an RPG, you can sink your teeth into it, and you just happen to like Viking stuff.
Yeah.
Because I will recommend it, honestly. It is good. Just another like cool little thing I like, and this is more of a personal thing. You've probably picked up that I'm a Brummie, but I come from like Tamworth, and what I really like, and it's a bit of a novelty, is the first like Tamworth was the capital of Mercia. The first siege you do is Tamworth Castle, and they've like, don't get me wrong, it was 1,000 years ago, and a bit more. But it doesn't look exactly how Tamworth is. It's by like it's next to a river, but Tamworth is on a mountain. I suppose. Yeah. Tamworth Castle, it is on a hill, but but it's really cool that it's set in the UK. I like fully admit, I know Syndicate was set in London. I'm not from London, and I know it was only set in London. I'm pretty sure like you've played Syndicate.
I completed Syndicate. It's full on London, but that's the thing as well. I mean, it's most games. I mean, even the Miles Morales. The Spider-Man swinging through New York, like, they're not full-on identical replicas of the real. It's just because they got to condense it into a game world. Because if you were actually like Syndicate, if that was a genuine full size of Victorian London, the map would have been absolutely huge.
So I have following
and with AC Valhalla, there's a lot of places. I mean, they've changed a lot of place names that weren't even what they were called.
What is Jorvik meant to be?
Jorvik's Yorkshire. Well, York. Which is actually technically correct. It's Jorvik. So that's actually
you
right.
Go there. Whenever you go there, it's like cold as fucking. Look, to be fair, Yorkshire is cold, like, but it's cold. But it's always like
we're talking like 1,500 years ago.
Yes, but it was mega up in the mountains. Like, so I was like, "Where's that?"
But it's but the geography is a little off. There's certain things where like Hampshire's like mad over towards the left, as if it's basically Somerset, and it's like, well, no, that's not. Hampshire's a lot further to the right because it was sort of like bordering on with Cornwall, and I was like, oh, Hampshire doesn't border with Cornwall. Like,
I suppose that if it was to be more accurate, it would have to be huge, and it's like just more complicated than very pedantic.
And then it's an even longer game.
It's an even longer game then, I suppose.
Because I mean, I was happy about was the representation of Shropshire. I was like, Shropshire finally got a shout out.
Exactly. So it is cool.
Shropshire,
it's cool that it's set in the UK, and that's nice. And another cool thing they've done is my partner can speak like fluent Welsh, and there's like when you go to Gloucestershire,
Gloucestershire,
or Gloucestershire, it's called. There's a Welsh speaker in it, and there's like a Welsh woman. It's like I think it's like mild spoilers, but you know it's not a big deal. It's the blacksmith, yeah, it's the gunner's wife sort of thing. It's actual the Welsh language. Like my partner could understand that. It's not like they've done it half-arsed. So that was cool.
Yeah, she said it's like a broken Welsh.
It's like broken Welsh in the sense that it's not very colloquial, but you can still understand it straight up.
It's just 1,500-year-old Welsh.
I can understand bits of it. Yeah. To their point, I suppose what they might have done is might have been really authentic, and it might be like really old school Welsh, and that's why new school Welsh is different. I don't know. We're not very fluent Welsh speakers. But I know Diog for listening, I suppose.
But he didn't even say for listening in Welsh.
He didn't even say for listening in Welsh. Just said Diog, which is thank you.
Go on, spoilers.
Straight into spoilers. So, the main story is, in my opinion, is not mega impressive until the big twist, which is at the end, and I just didn't really see that coming.
Go on, what was the big twist that you didn't see coming?
Well, it's not a big Basim that he's like a bad
Basim.
guy.
Oh yeah,
so
I was trying to think of which
I didn't see, and this is my point, is that like I didn't really see that coming, but like we just said in non-spoilers now that like the hidden ones don't really do much. Then all of a sudden, Basim turns out to be a bad guy, and the reason that is apparently, again, this is to its detriment to a degree. I had to like look into it a bit more, and it's probably because I never paid attention when I should have, or whatever. But
skipping cutscenes.
It's Loki because he was been imprisoned, and he's like reincarnation of Loki thousands of years later, in the Isu times. There's not much hint towards Basim being a bad guy, apart from when you're, I think it's halfway through the arcs when you're looking for Sigrid, after Sigrid gets kidnapped.
It's Sigurd, not Sigrid. Sigrid's the singer.
Sigurd.
Sigurd.
Sigurd, there we are. But, well, she's from Norway as well, so maybe I'm right, cheeky bastard bitch. But he gets kidnapped, and you're looking for him, like, halfway through the game with Basim. And you're a bit around the campfire, and he's talking about, like, back in the day in his life.
Yeah.
And he said about his children getting kidnapped, and that's when he was like, Isu. That's cool. But the biggest problem it has is it suffers from having no main villain. Apart from Falco.
Falco is the one you probably hate the most. You want to kill her because she betrays you.
That's because she betrays you and she kidnaps Sigurd. Or Sigurd. So that's... But there's no, like, real main story villain apart from her. Basim is a twist, and that twist happens...
I saw the twist coming, but I didn't see it
coming...
Oh,
of course, you saw the twist.
I saw it coming in a way that I was like, I don't trust Basim at all. That he was so, like, shady with you. And there was times that you'd be, like, just walking around in the Longhouse back in Ravensthorpe, and you'd be chatting to Ranvi or someone, and he'd just be walking in the background like he's just listening in, plotting or whatever. And I just thought, you know, like, he's just, you know...
He's big when he tries to muck you off and he's condescending, and, like, you can punch him, like, that's cool. So I'll punch him.
But he's just... Every time I saw him, I was like, I don't trust this guy. I know he's meant to be part of the hidden ones, right? But I'd put my life in the hands of Hytham, not Basim. Basim is just a shifty motherfucker. So I did not trust him. So when the twist happened, I don't get me wrong, I liked the twist, and I didn't fully see how the twist was going to come out, but I knew that something's got to happen with Basim.
But it happens 2 minutes before the end, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Ranvi will be your favourite character. She's the actual leader of the settlement.
To be honest, without, like, because Aevor's fucking off around the country all the time. Sigurd's presumed dead.
Without Ranvi, Sigurd's gone, or, like, he's got his arm chopped off, and he's in a poody, and he's, like, in a mardy, because his arm's chopped off, and he's having his mad trances. You're going off physically, your character, Eivor, is like trying to take over the UK or help the UK.
Yeah.
So the settlement itself, without Ramsey, would be fucked. We'd be on its arse.
She's the real MVP.
She's the real MVP too, right? And this is the discussion everybody's been doing, and you know you've got to do it. Is do you shag Ranvi or not? Like you have that option. It's part of the main story, and you can continue to do it. One of my favourite bits on it, and it's just funny, is when like Sigurd gets back from like rescuing him. You can like say to like, Ranvi, "Do you want a kiss or do you want a shag?" And like Ranvi would turn around and go, "Nah, like, Sigurd's in the next room." Like, and it's jokes because, and it's very pedantic of me, but the audio doesn't change. She says it the same like volume of voice, same volume of voice of like discussing where to take over next. She don't whisper it to everyone. There's no like bit where like,
Sigurd could be like right
Sigurd's
behind.
Sigurd's in the longhouse with you, and like you can do like you ragging his missus type of thing. But she just seems like there's like a few characters which are in depth written, but it's weird because the dialogue itself, whether it be banter, whether it would just be like the missions getting given. It's not shit writing. It's just not done. It's not just not done enough.
To me, it's the essence of a Ubisoft game. Every Ubisoft game I've ever played, right? There's always been something missing. There's like they go so far, and they're only like 10% left just to hit that sort of what you'd call quote unquote perfection. But then they just stop that short.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a Ubisoft game, and you can see it across all of them because there's sort of like a similarity across every one. Like even the sort of game engine and everything that's used, like the face models and everything looks very identical. And it's just, especially nowadays, Ubisoft games all seem the same, apart from like the presentation and such. Each game. I mean, if I was to show you screenshots of Watch Dogs Legion and screenshots of Valhalla, if I just showed you the character models but removed like their obvious 2000 and whatever year clothing and 600 AD clothing, right? Yeah. And I just showed you like the character designs would look identical. There's a lot of sort of similarities between them. And like I say, there's something with Ubisoft. There's always something just slightly missing with them. There's always bugs and stuff going on in the background. You'd just be in a conversation and then there'll be someone doing a T-pose floating across the screen in the background, or you'd be because it's real-time cutscenes, right? And you'll just have like some random NPC just walk right in the middle between you and the person you're meant to be having a conversation with, and then just stood there doing their like pre-programmed daily task, but you happen to stop and talk to this quest giver right in front of where they do their NPC work. So to me that's what Ubisoft does. So it was there's always something missing, but there was a lot of moments when I was playing the game where I was like, holy shit, this is fucking sick. There was one bit you've saved Sigurd from 4K, you've killed 4K, you bring him back, and you just like, because basically you've got to do all that, and then you've got to basically fast travel back to Ravensthorpe to be like, oh, they're now an alliance, right? So you can then pledge to somewhere else, right? And as I walk back into Longhouse, two of the inhabitants of Ravensthorpe are kicking off with each other, and Ranvi's like, can you sort it out? Because you are, you're the Jarl as such, because Sigurd's been away, right? She couldn't find Sigurd. So you sit in the chair, and then you start listening to the problems.
Yeah, it's like judgment,
like as a judgment sort of thing, as almost like courts in session, right? And you're just about to make your plea of like, this is what's going to happen, and then Sigurd comes in out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, what the hell are you doing? I am Jarl. This is what I do, right? And he proper kicks off. I actually really enjoyed that scene. I mean, there are many other instances where sometimes the writing, the direction of the shots, the voice acting, everything just comes together really well.
I think
it's few and far between.
I think when you discuss like Ubisoft games, and particularly Valhalla, again, despite us saying how big it is, there's a lot of good moments in their games. There just isn't enough of them.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things about it is when you sit down with Sigurd at the end of the game and you've like defeated Basim, or like even well, that's another like big story moment. Like, you've defeated, you never killed him. You're like imprison him in like the Animus, or like a version of the Animus, and then like the present day Layla clocks him, and then he escapes. I think gets his hand on the staff of Hermes
and
from Odyssey, and he resurrects, and then
he becomes the new Layla.
He becomes the new Layla. You're playing as him, and that's how the like present day story arc ends. As I was saying, at the end of the game, you defeat Basim. You have a sit down with Sigrid, and the outcome. Sigurd, sure. There's an outcome, different outcomes, in the sense that if you have like 6 decisions to make or 12 decisions to make throughout the game, and there's a good decision to make and a bad decision to make. So like, there's parts where the main one I remember is Dag. So Dag kicks off.
Yeah.
He's constantly saying, "You're not the girl, Sigurd is."
Yeah.
Or play the game, stop bossing me about, or whatever. And Dag like is a good bloke, apart from just kicking off a bit, and like he's representative of being in the clan forever. He's a good warrior. So it turns out he like challenges you for a fight to a death.
For leadership.
For leadership.
In Sigurd's name.
That's it. In Sigurd, yeah. So that's a bit of a big deal. Yeah, Norse mythology in particular, they want to go to spoilers Valhalla.
Yeah.
And their honourable death type of thing.
Yeah.
So the decision there to be made is you've got to wreck him either way, otherwise you're just dead. Like,
but low last save.
Low last save. But the decision is, do you put his axe on his chest, or do you fuck his axe off into the bush so he doesn't go to Valhalla?
Fetch.
Like, fetch. You know, mate, good luck with that. So you want to send her to Valhalla and you can have honourable death. And there's a few decisions like that. Like, you know, I was naughty. I started shagging Ranvi before they broke up, because they broke up near the end of the game. These bits where you can stick up for Sigrid. Sigurd. So that's a bit he likes. But those decisions there should be more of those decisions. So like what a lot of like RPGs at the moment, and this is like cool. And I suppose it happens with Red Dead. That's the first one that comes to mind, and The Witcher 3, which I feel like the new Assassin's Creed games have been like quite unquote inspired by. Is when two like or a number of people have played the game, and they say, oh, even though it's like a story game, you say, oh, it happened to me like this. Oh no, I don't. I chose this decision. I had a totally different story, and there should have been more of that.
Yeah, there should have been more deviations as such, because it's the good ending or the bad ending. That's basically all you get. And I mean, sometimes it is nice just to get that sort of change, but sometimes we do want a bit more for more replayability as such. But when I think of replayability, how many games have I actually ever replayed? Right, and I've probably I don't know how many games I've actually played in my life. Like it's hundreds and hundreds, but I can tell you the ones I've replayed are like on one hand. Yeah.
For the like story arcs, there's a few endearing characters, and there's like jokes once. There's the chap in York who's like a pisshead. Halfton, he's cool. Like this, I can't. To be fair, I'm struggling names in all around. Never mind, like a video game. But this summer, she's a cool leader. The story arc when you got.
She was Grantsbridge.
Yeah, she's Grantsbridge.
She's actually one of the first areas, isn't she?
She's one of the first areas. You got to discover who's like betraying her. That's quite cool. There's the Ivar mission. So the Ivar mission's really cool.
I think that's probably one of the best ones. Which is in Shropshire, I think.
Yeah.
That's my favourite one, because you're trying to find out who should be the new not the alderman, and it's not a jarl. What are they called? Like,
I don't know.
No, but like the leader of that sort of area.
Town,
And is it Ceolwulf?
Ceolwulf.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think you choose him, and then it's like, who do you give the money to and stuff, and you keep it for yourself if you want. There's lots of different things, and you go through all of this. Then it turns out Ivar's just an absolute dick, and he's
so he wants you. Yeah, he wants you to go to war with a neighbouring like.
But because it's basically with Wales, they want you to go to war with Wales, because the one guy.
He had a fight with Ivar, didn't
he? Yeah. No, what's the King something? King. It's a Welsh name, but I can't think of what it is. Die.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the king was called. But basically,
David.
It's like. But
so he wants Ivar, instead of having peace.
Yeah.
The way he stokes the flames is to kill Cobalt, and he blames it on this guy.
Yeah.
So Eivor later finds out, he's like, hold on a minute, it wasn't this guy. You just wanted to go to war.
Yeah.
And fucking Eivor killed Cobalt, and Eivor like pretends to be like your best bud, like, and you're going through battles with him, and he pretends to teach Cobalt, and Cobalt is basically he's a bit wet behind the wheels and wet behind the ears, like, but it's like he starts growing up to be more badass, more of a cool leader,
confident in himself,
more confident in himself, and like he's a cool chap, like, and he grows to become more of a leader, and then you like him because you spend a bit of time with him, and then he just gets blammed. Yeah. And that battle itself's quite cool.
It's the boss fight itself. Boss battles, to be honest.
Yeah, but I can't remember many other boss battles apart from that.
Well, there's no boss battle for the Order of the Ancients.
So there's too many Order of the Ancients. So to get Thor's armor, and this is the weird thing, is so in different games you have, it's like a no-brainer. You have a look on the Reddit, or you have a look on like YouTube, or like you think to yourself, and you get something in a side quest, and it's a no-brainer for you to get this armor or weapon. And you have a side quest branch. You think you complete that, and then that will carry you then for the rest of the game. So you think that would be the case for Thor's armor and Thor's like hammer? I'm not even going to try and pronounce Thor's hammer. Mjolnir. Yeah. So the way you get that is not just killing 3 bosses, which are quite hard in themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be cool enough, because killing those 3 bosses is quite hard, like. But you kill those 3 bosses, and you have to get all of Thor's armor to then be worthy to pick up Mjolnir. So to get all pieces of the armor, so you get 4 pieces by killing the 3 bosses, which is pretty cool. But as I say, there's 5 pieces of armor you need to get. To get the very last piece, Hyphen, because that's like one, like, not side quest of the game, but like another crux of the game is Hyphen. You kill the Ancient of the Audience, because you're Ancient of the Order of the Ancients. Get out in the end. You kill a lot of them, dare I say, for doing story arcs. So if you're not like striking up an ally ship or raiding a town, they're like turning around and saying, "Oh, this bloke's a bit fishy here. Oh, we don't like him. He's fucking us about here. Who's this guy investigating him? Oh, Spot is part of the Order of the Ancients. She's part of the Order of the Ancients." So you kill a good, like, probably like 40% maybe for the main story. But I'll have to fact check this. I don't know. But there's probably 30 Order of the Ancients maybe? Or 40. No, there's 40. It's definitely 40 odd.
Yeah.
And I'll get there in the end, but you have to kill 40 Order of the Ancients.
And it's not just
for you to get
the Ancients like people, it's all the Zealots as well.
All the Zealots as well. And the Zealots you only get through finding them around the world. So there's no clues for them. You just got to physically find them. And I'll put my hand up, like a few of them towards the end, I just had to use a guide. Not had to use a guide, but I wanted to like complete it. So I thought, fuck this. I'll go get a guide. It's taking too long. So that's how you get Thor's hammer. But by the time you've done that, you've pretty much completed the game, because for you to get the last Order of the Ancients medallion off Hyphen, and he just then gives you the Thor's cape, that's King Alfred says he's been trying to take him out from the inside, and he gives you the last one. And that, again, that's the kind of like anticlimactic ending.
So basically, there's a guy that's feeding you all this intel on the Order of the Ancients, right? Called Fellow Soldier of Christ.
Fellow Soldier of Christ.
Right? And I was trying to think who it could be, right? And I had a little suspicion in my head going, it could be Alfred. It could be Alfred, right? And Alfred is known as Alfred the Great, like, in history. And I've watched a lot of like sort of Viking era sort of films and TV shows and stuff, so I know a fair bit of Alfred's character arc, and I knew there is no way that he could be the head of the Order of the Ancients.
Bad guy, look.
Yeah, there's no way he's the bad guy, the head of the Order of the Ancients, right? And once it got towards to meet the guy to tell you about the Order of the Ancients, I was like, I wonder if it's Alfred, right? That's this fellow of Christ guy. And then it was only just like, I didn't properly think about it, but it was just like a quick thought in my head. I was like, I wonder if the guy that's giving you all the intel, but he's also the head of the duration. So I was like, nah, they wouldn't do that.
Kieran guessed.
They wouldn't do that. But it wasn't like I fully guessed it. It was just like a quick thought I had that like, oh, that'd be a bit of a cop out, wouldn't it? Right, but I was like, well, I don't know, would it, not? And then we go to meet Alfred, and then Alfred's like, oh yeah, like, well, you go to meet the fellow Christian soldier, and it turns out to be Alfred, and you're like, yeah, I guess I did see that coming then. I guess that played out the way it was. And then I'm like, alright, I'm ready for this boss battle against your main guy of the Order of the Ancients, right? And then he's like, oh, by the way, here's my medallion. And this was passed down to me through generations, but I did not believe I didn't want to be part of the.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't want to be part of it.
Where's my boss battle?
I've
just spent fucking 86 hours playing this game. Where's my fucking boss battle?
The closest thing to a boss battle is the woman, because he's like trying to retire in hiding, is giving him a bollocking about not burning the cakes.
Yeah, so, well, basically, I keep telling you need to watch it, but The Last Kingdom, Alfred, right, he actually escapes to like a marshland, which is very similar to where you actually meet him.
Yeah, it is a marshland there.
So he escapes to a marshland and he's battling an illness, right? And ultimately that's what gets him, right, is this illness. And it's not shown in the game that he's got that sort of illness, but it's that sort of, when I arrived there, before I even saw that it was Alfred that I would be meeting, I was like, oh, it feels like I'm in marshlands. It was just like the whole setting of it just sort of tied in with The Last Kingdom and how it was kind of like the same sort of setting. It just got my brainwaves going, sort of thing. But yeah, he's just hiding basically. So I wasn't sure if he's there because of his illness or he's just hiding away or what. He does mention that he's getting away because of the whole uproar and the whole Vikings have overtaken Hamptonshire and everything. I don't know.
Yeah. So
but he's been trying to
you take over like a village, and that's like a bit of a cool battle. But it's not. You're not storming a castle. I think it would have been cool if you like stormed the castle and like the epic like raid took you about 20 minutes. That would have been cool. A good way to finish it, I suppose. But no, you could argue that it was like good storytelling with the Alfred, and I like that.
Yeah.
One of like the most cool characters. I can't even like one of like is it one of Ragnar's sons? He dies off screen.
Uber.
Yeah, that's it. Uber. Sorry, Uber dies off screen, and you can go to his like. I went to where he got like wrecked, and that's pretty brutal. Like you see where he got wrecked. There's like half a dozen spears in him, like just keeping him upright. But there's no benefit to seeing him. Like you get like everyone's just gutted that he's dead. Type of thing. He just says,
he just sort of voice quotes while he stood there, sort of thing.
But
right at the end of the game, basically the end of the game is when Sigurd says, "I don't think I should be Jarl. You should be Jarl, Ivor, because you were the one that did all the work."
Yeah.
And they have a little bit of a feast, and there's a bit of a cutscene, and then sort of like there's a camera sort of cutscene of like showing Ravensthorpe's long house, and basically that's the end. But then you go to and that's sort of like the end sort of cinematic. But then you go and do the mission of trying to overthrow, basically trying to kill Alfred, don't you? Because
so it's got 3 different endings in a sense. That there's the ending for Sigurd's journey. So when you turn out Basim's the bad guy, so there's that bit. Then there's Sigurd. Then there's the Order of the Ancients. Then there's you've took over all or like made allies with all of the UK.
Yeah, basically.
And Alfred is tied into like 2 of those. And I'm under illusion like you can't get Alfred's medallion until you've done that bit, because otherwise Alfred's not going to be in hiding and like give up and have a titful and go to the marshlands until you've done that bit.
Yeah, it just felt a bit like it fell a bit flat towards the end after going all that journey, and then there's no real like ultimate conclusion. Yeah,
so you have a bit where Sigurd sits you down and once you've defeated Basim, and there's it shows you decisions you've made and why. Like Sigurd says,
back in Norway,
Norway, he says, "You're a good Jarl because you've done this. You stuck up for me. You did or did not shag Radvin when you're supposed to.
You gave Dag an
honourable death. And he like flashbacks what decision you made, whether you're good or bad.
Yeah.
I got that end. I got the good end, and I presume you did as well. I don't know what happens, and I suppose you could argue we should look at this, but I don't know what happens if you're a dick throughout. I suppose that would be nice if like there's loads of different ones.
Maybe you have to kill Sigurd or something.
Yeah.
Because he kicks off, I don't know.
One of my like little points with that is whether it could have been like a more of a tutorial at the beginning, or like then there would have been like shit pacing, I suppose, is more like brotherhood bonding, spend more time with Sigurd at the start.
Yeah,
because
I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a build there. But then
So-
we've just argued that the game's 86 hours.
so we just how long it is, but the pacing, you're not mega arsed that Sigurd's been kidnapped, because at the beginning of the game he comes back and gives you like he's gone anyway.
Yeah, he keeps disappearing.
He keeps disappearing off on his jollies, and then when he comes back, he's like, "Oh, here's the hidden blade. Let's go argue with my dad and say, look, we're not pledging fealty to the people of Norway." And he's like, "Yeah, let's
We're going
fuck
to
off to
England.
England."
Yeah, because Ragnar's over there and he's having a good time, so we're going to go join him, sort of thing.
Yeah. If you enjoy the combat and you like the setting
Yeah,
/ the Norse mythology, you will love it.
yeah. I
Because
mean,
as we said,
I
it's a
smashed
big old
it
game.
pretty much. I didn't smash it as soon as it came out. I think it was about a month or so after it had been out. I got it and I played it quite a bit, and I think I got maybe 40% of the way through. Actually, no, about 60. I say 60% of the way through, and I just burnt out on it because felt like it just took too long to complete. And then it's only been the last sort of month or so that
we both
that
started
I've
playing
jumped
it
back
again,
on
yeah.
it, because you said you started playing it. And I was like, you know what, I should go back to it and finally complete it. And I'm glad I did complete it, to be fair, to find out what the final story arc was and everything, and to sort of wrap it all up for Ivor. But it's, like I said, you full on get your money's worth,
Yeah.
like with this game.
And it is a fun game. It's like, as I say, if you like playing it, there's a lot to play. So
Yeah, there's a lot to play. It's a bit repetitive.
a little tip section before we wrap it up is loot everything as you would, because it's an RPG game.
yeah.
You don't have to dilly-dally with the mysteries. You don't, like we've said, one of the negatives is like you don't get mega rewarded for them.
No, I mean the good thing about the mysteries compared to a normal side mission, I think, is that it does force you to explore.
Yeah,
It does force you to go to areas you just normally ignore. But there are some mysteries, that just like, this just felt like it was, this was like a 5-minute job sort of thing that they threw in rather than fleshing it out some more. But
for the sake of ease, like a lot of Assassin's Creed games and Ubisoft games and RPG games in general, whether it be Horizon or whether it be like Red Dead or just Witcher, go to your viewpoints and sync points in this case. Go to your fast travel points.
yeah, always
Because it's quicker for you to get about. So a lot of the places, to be fair, to its aligned map, you can sort it and you would take over one place, and then the next place is not too far away from it.
Yeah.
So then you'll just fast travel to a place you took over or whatever. But it's even quicker if you've done all the viewpoints. But obviously it's level scaled, and for what it's worth, before we finish, it's getting updated quite a bit, still regularly.
Yeah, it's still got support, still getting support, which is quite nice for it, to be fair. I mean, it's not an ancient old game, but it's and plus they haven't announced the new one. There's been speculations and stuff about it going free to play. It's going to become like an open world sort of thing, or
a service game or whatever.
Yeah, Battle Pass or something, Assassin's Creed. I don't really know how that's going to work. So this could be the last one we get in this particular format, and I think while it's still being supported, while it's still a solid game, and it's also next gen compatible, definitely give it a go.
Pick it up, yeah. So there's our Assassin's Creed Valhalla talk. Maybe a bit long, but as we said, the game's long.
Yeah. So we'll go straight into the moments of the week then.
So my moment of the week in screen time is I watched a documentary called Our Father. It was actually recommended by a friend, and it's just a creepy, weird documentary about this fertility doctor in the 70s and the 80s. And you go to him because you have problems conceiving a child for whatever reason. And the lady would say, even if they provided sperm of the partner, what he'd do, which is terribly wrong, but again, they explore this in the documentary. There's no real law against it, and this is what's like again wrong in itself. Fact is, he would crack one out, use his own jizz to impregnate the woman, and it turns out he has loads, and I mean loads of children. So it's like, I think like 50 odd at least, maybe even like 70 odd children, and it was all like without consent of the like families who went to him, like the couples who went to him, and they're all like related. So they go through this testing. So like they're doing like ancestry.com or whatever. So like a few people would like ping you, and you get a ping, and it's like you have loads of half brothers and half sisters, and you're not meant to like have that many, obviously.
No, yeah.
Unless like you know from like your previous relationship, your like parents' previous relationships. Yeah, it's not like a to-do thing that you'll have loads, and these people had loads. They started investigating it, and he goes through it, and it's like, it's quite an emotional documentary, and it's quite creepy and seedy there. That they do like a lot of things quite trendy in documentaries, and especially more recently, is that they do reconstructions for it.
Yeah.
So it's more dramatised. But don't get me wrong, it's definitely worth a watch, and it sounds like I'm saying it's like they make it into more dramatic than it needs to be, but it doesn't, because it is like at the end of the day, these are people we're talking about who were made like under like false pretense.
Yeah.
So they go through their entire life thinking this person's their biological dad. And don't get me wrong, that person's still wiping their ass, that person still played catch with him, or like
difference between a father and a dad.
It's the difference between a father and a dad. But they went through their entire life thinking that was their biological father, and it turns out it's not.
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix, so yeah, give it a watch. It's creepy and it's weird. And
I mean, I told Mikey what my moment of the week was going to be earlier, but I've actually had a change of heart because this one's far more relevant to ScreenHour listeners. Basically, I've been very intently watching. I say intently watching. I've in and out, but I've been very pro Johnny Depp, 100%. Like I've been, I really like Johnny Depp. I mean, he's not without his faults, but he's, you know, I think it's been proven he is not a woman beater.
oh yeah, so if you're hiding under a rock, for some reason you don't know, we've had like it's just finished this week.
Yeah.
When like out time of recording, the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard case.
Yeah, the verdict came out that he wins the defamation case.
Defamation case, yeah.
So kudos to him, and because of the whole spiel and everything, the publicity and everything going around, obviously I've had a bit of Johnny Depp on the mind, so I've been watching a lot of Johnny Depp stuff, and I watched something on Amazon Prime, and it's called The Professor. Right, and I think it was 2019 or something. It could have been a little bit earlier, like maybe 17. But he plays the professor, who is an English professor in a university in America somewhere, and the beginning of it, he finds out that he's got 6 months to live because he's got lung cancer, and the whole film is about how he
deals with that,
and how does he tell his family? Does he tell his family? How does he tell his friends? Does he tell his friends? And how that impacts the way he teaches. And it is brilliant. It's so funny considering it's a very dark topic. It's so funny. I was crying with laughter to the point towards the end I was actually crying in sadness because it was.
I've never heard of it until you mentioned it. I do want to watch it now.
I never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And plus, to me, Johnny Depp is a character actor. So, you think of him in Tim Burton.
He's just quirky stuff.
He's quirky stuff. He's Tim Burton's, he's Alice in Wonderland, he's Willy Wonka, Edward Scissorhands, and then, of course, you've got the magnificent Captain Jack Sparrow, right? And you think of Johnny Depp in that light. You can also think of Johnny Depp in Public Enemies. That's, again, very different from those characters. But this one, I feel, is... I'm not saying it's Johnny Depp, but he's a lot more realistic, a lot more grounded as a character, as someone that you'd be like, yeah, that's a person I'd see walking down the street, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute detriment to him that he's almost on par with his role in The Tourist, a very sort of normal guy. and it's just a testament to his acting ability. It's brilliant, and I can't say anything without spoiling anything. But basically, the premise is he finds out he's got lung cancer, and it's how he deals with it. And it's a very funny, chillaxing sort of watch.
More of a low key film.
Yeah, it's a good sort of weekend sort of film sort of thing that you just watch and chill out to, and you go along for the ride. You have some laughs, and at the end you have a bit of a cry. But at the end of the day, you think that was a good film. You know, it's just that was my moment.
Definitely sounds good.
I definitely recommend watching it. It's a good one.
Seems different. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a Johnny Depp film, which is part of like one of the things like I like him and I think he's like a good actor, but I think a lot of the films like his characters can be annoying because they're trying so hard to be different and a bit mad like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely give that a watch. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
So thanks for listening, as always, especially if you've stuck out to the end and you've loved it as always.
Yeah,
but
appreciate you everyone tuning in. Don't forget to look at us on YouTube and Instagram. You can listen to our podcasts on YouTube, and then you can follow any updates or whatever on the gram.
Yeah, it's just if you watch on YouTube, it's pretty easy. Just copy and paste the link. Yeah, share it on like your Facebook, your Instagram, or whatever. Put it on your story, or Twitter. Doesn't matter what you're using.
And then of course, I should also point out the obvious. We're also on Spotify, and Anchor is the app that we're using to help throw this out. So 4 different mediums there for you to check in.
Have a good time.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week.
See you in the next episode. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.